very important. It's where you come from. Madam President, fellow Toastmasters and guests. There were words that my great-aunt said to me when I was about 8, and we were visiting her, and in the dining room on the wall she had a chart, a family tree chart. I don't remember anything that was on it. About 3 years later, my grandmother came out from Wales to South Africa, and one afternoon we were sitting in the drawing room, and she told me the circumstances of her late husband, my grandfather's death. And he was the first officer in the Merchant Navy, and they were off Nova Scotia. Something had worked loose, and he and the carpenter, they went forward to reattach it. It was a front ventilator. They fixed it, and they were going back in, and my grandfather was in front of them, and someone shouted out, "Watch out." Chippy was able to hold on to the windlass, but my grandfather was washed overboard. And because they saw it happening, he was thrown 3 life belts straight away, and he got hold of one of them. They lowered a raft as well. And his friend, Roy Creaser, had a bowline put around his chest, and he went into the water. And in his own report, he said that he had him in his arms twice, but with the terrific sea and the rolling ship, that and the jerking, the rope as well, he lost him. And when the people on board the ship saw that he was getting distressed, they pulled him in. Now the steward was up the mast trying to watch it, and he saw my grandfather slip out of the buoy and sink, and he said he was certainly unconscious and he was probably already dead. But before he died, my grandfather wrote copiously. He loved the sea, and he wrote short stories, he entered writing competitions, he wrote home a lot, and he was part of the British Adoptership Association, which schools adopted a ship and wrote to the people on board, the sailors. And when he was 12, my grandfather was reprimanded at school, and as a result he hopped out of the window, and that was the last anyone saw of him for 2 years, when someone contacted my great-grandmother, and said that he was in Cardiff and he needed new shoes. But that was that. But the report, I'd always imagined, because I'm the shortest in the family, I'd always imagined him to be quite tall. But in the reports, he was only 5'8.5", and his expanded chest was 37. So he wasn't like that at all. He came from Barry in South Wales, and my mum, she went to South Africa, and she was fiercely Welsh. She couldn't wait to tell everyone how she was Welsh. She was the president of the Cambrian Society, and it's something she jealously guarded. She did not want anyone else to be Welsh, and certainly not my father's family. And she died in 2007, and in 2009, I discovered my father has Welsh roots too. And my 9 times great-grandfather, Hugh Middleton, was born in Denbigh and in North Wales. And he went to London to learn a trade. He became a goldsmith, and he made a lot of money doing that, because the goldsmiths were also bankers. And he was obviously quite clever. He used his brain, and he had engineering skills that he had developed himself. When they needed fresh water in London, there was always a Thames there, but Thames had dirty water. People did their washing, they emptied the sluices into it. So someone had suggested that they brought water from Hertfordshire to Islington. It was someone else's idea, but my grandfather, he funded it. And what they used was they used elm trees, and they hollowed out the centre of the trees, they lined them in pitch, and they put them together. Now, as the crow flies from the River Lee in Amwell, it would have been 20 miles, but with the contours of the land, it was about 38 miles. But my grandfather got all the credit for it. And there were a lot of places in Islington where the fountain actually came up, and there's a statue of him on Islington Green, and there's Middleton Street and Middleton Square. And one day I discovered that there was a Middleton school. So I contacted the school thinking I'd be able to get a bit more information on him, but instead I was invited to the school. which I was quite happy to do. But they said then, would I mind, and they rang me back, and they said a couple of hours later, they said, would I mind if the children had an assembly and asked me some questions? So I said, no, that's okay. And they said, would I mind if the press was there? So it was a gulp, and I studied about the man. I had the date, I studied. It was like doing my A-levels again. And I thought, I know this man, I know him. There's so much written about him, I know him. Sorry, and the first question, it was, we were on the stage, and the headmaster said any questions, and the little hands went up, and there's one boy in the front row, and he said, yes, Ismail. And he said, well, how well do you know him? He died in 1631. So I said, well, he died quite a long while ago. He said, yeah, but before he died, how well did I know him? The second question was, what are his favourite food and drink? The next one was, how rich are you? And have you only got any other famous relations? And I had to say, yes, but I said, I couldn't tell them what they were, because there's Wicked Billy, and Wicked Billy is famous, or is well known for cavorting with women of ill repute. That's for another day. That's it.
Very good.
Well done, Ray. Thank